Greetings, all you magnificent beings out there, and welcome to Life Mastery TV, your source for inspiration, empowerment, and fulfillment. My name is David McLeod. I am your Life Mastery coach and also the author of the book, A Life to Die For, and also one of the co-authors in the best-selling series, The Wellness Universe Guide to Complete Self-Care. And today is, we're getting into episode 191. Our topic today is Raise Your Vibe. Now, one of the things I like to kind of ask people is, how do you feel about your current level of vibration? Now, without judging yourself or anything like that, just notice how you feel about it. How would you like to elevate and expand into a higher frequency? What might be stopping you right now from experiencing and expressing yourself at the highest possible level? Well, these are powerful and important questions for anyone who is on a path of conscious personal growth. And given that you are here on my show right now watching this presentation, I suspect that you are on this kind of a path yourself. So good for you for being willing to ask these questions and for looking to your own source for the answers. Now, sometimes, in spite of our best efforts and our most impeccable intentions, we get stuck in the mud of our lives. When this happens, we may find it convenient or necessary to look around outside of ourselves for some guidance and assistance. And that's why I've invited the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where they specialize in publishing and business strategy for healers. My guest has spent 30 years in holistic physical therapy and 12 of those in private practice before making the pivot to publishing. With 14 years training in the martial arts and 25 books and counting, including at least 20 Amazon bestsellers, she's got a clear preference for which she calls badass. So please welcome the amazing Laura Defranco back to my program. She's been here before, and I love it when she joins me because we have some fantastic conversations.
Here I come. Hey, everyone.
Well, hi there, Laura.
Hi, David.
Good to see you again, and thank you for joining me on the program. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me back. I love these conversations.
Yeah, well,
and I loved listening to your intro about vibes. That was good. Good questions to be asking ourselves.
Yeah, well, thank you. I just to reflect back to you, I'm so thrilled to have you back again because I'm always excited when we have a conversation. I find that my vibe just rises just being with you. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'm just going to say thank you to that. I think I've worked on being that kind of being, and it serves me and it serves the people I'm around, and it's awesome. And I'm so glad we're talking about this today. Yeah,
right. Well, the way I want to start, I really want to bring attention to these 20 plus Amazon bestsellers. And as I was saying to you off camera, it seems to me that must be some kind of record, especially given how fast you've done this. So with that kind of resume, it's obvious you have personally raised your vibe. So I'm just wondering, what is your secret?
Well, when we talk about the collaborations, it really is that. It's the amazing collaborative energy of all of those beautiful healers coming together. So, we can talk about raising our personal vibe in our daily lives and our lifestyle and our practices and disciplines. But then when you bring a group of people together who are practicing together, and then you bring them together to write words together and publish a book together in that kind of vibe, oh my goodness, it's been magic. And it's so much fun to say we've got more than 20 bestsellers now. And I think it's really because of that. So yeah, that's just a little bit about that. I was telling you earlier when we were chatting that when the collaborative journey started for me, I really felt like these were orders from the divine, and I was just running around following the orders, right? My job was to be aligned with joy and love and gratitude. And if I was doing my job, then those orders could come in loud and clear. And that is what started to happen with that first collaboration, and now 20 plus at this point. Pretty cool.
Yeah. And I've had the good fortune of being a part of that collaboration. I've been involved in 4 of those books. And so, yeah, I understand what you mean, and I totally resonate. But you mentioned being in alignment with love and joy and gratitude. For some people, that can be a pretty tall order, especially when they have challenging situations and circumstances going on in their lives. I mean, as you and I know, we've both done a lot of work on this. The circumstances really don't matter as long as we can stay present and aligned. But when you're stuck in that stuff, sometimes it's not so easy to remember the alignment thing. So let's talk a little bit about what we can do to help people stay in that place, even when the shit is just spinning around them, to coin a phrase. Sorry about that. What do you think?
Listen, this is a mindset game. And when you master your mindset, and I have a little bit different version of a definition of mindset, so we can talk about that in a minute.
Sure.
But when you really get your mindset mastery to a particular level, then actually, I don't care what circumstance you're in. I could talk about some pretty interesting circumstances in my last couple of years, and we all could.
Right.
Not just the obvious one that I don't even really want to talk about today, because that'll just bring our vibe down, but just all the other stuff that every human has, and all of the things that they've gone through. And, the list is long. But when you've mastered a certain level of observing what's going on in here, then you get a choice. With awareness, you get a choice. And I could talk about awareness all day long, because this is an awareness game.
Right.
And everyone can get better at it.
Well, that's a good point. And I think that ultimately awareness is, well, I don't know if you've seen my book, A Life to Die For, where I talk about, the 10 keys to what I call life mastery, but they're all supported by my base camp, which is awareness. You can't do anything until you open your eyes, look around, listen with your ears, feel with your fingers, get the senses flowing. And then beyond that, bringing the intuition into it so you can connect into your spiritual awareness and all the rest of it. The higher you can raise your level of awareness, the easier life becomes. It's really quite an amazing statement. I mean, I never would have believed that when I first started out, And so I think that awareness thing is critical. And if you don't do anything else with your life, start doing something to raise your awareness of what's going on around you, and awareness of what's going on within you. And in particular, that stuff within, because that's really ultimately all that matters anyway.
Awareness is the foundation for raising your vibe. So if you don't have an awareness practice, you're not going to be able to really master that higher vibration.
Right.
And you said, it makes it easier. Actually, I would disagree with you slightly. Once you start to wake up a little, there's no going back, and watch out, because life is going to bring you things that you didn't really expect. And sometimes it can actually feel harder to be awake and aware, because then you're faced with choices that you have to make about your life. And where before, when you were walking around like a zombie or on autopilot all day long, I had a healer say to me one day, we were talking about my relationship, and she wanted me to answer a question. And I just said, I'm really confused about this. I don't know. And she looked me in the eyes and said, it's easier to be confused.
That's right.
So you need to wake up to the fact that it's going to be harder to go ahead and be clear and make a decision based on what your intuition and awareness is telling you need to do, right? Intuition is in the body, by the way. You said senses, and that's my definition too. Mindset game is in the body and the mind, both.
Right.
But it's being able to feel and notice and observe, what you're feeling and thinking. So you know, I love this topic, David.
I know, and we can talk about this all day. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that what I have experienced in my life is the more aware I become, I agree with one thing, and that is I don't want to go back to that falling asleep, at the wheel kind of guy. That just wasn't working for me. And I can look at my life in that state and I can say, yeah, I learned some things in that time frame, but it really wasn't, the ideal situation for me. Now, situations may be just as bad from an external perspective, but I have a different attitude about it. And the attitude came from raising my awareness, becoming more connected to my spiritual essence. And, I do a lot of meditating now. I'm probably meditating 2 hours a day at this point. And just by doing that and allowing myself to get present, and yes, I agree that it has to do with the body, of course, that just being there is so much better than, all the crap that I think about sometimes when my mind gets wound up,
Yeah, I do know. I have, I'll call it my miracle morning, and it's a combo of affirmation, journaling, meditation. I just put 3 things in one there. But my messages channel through my writing. And when I began to do a meditation practice and really sit and get still, there would always be something moving through. And in the beginning, I just resisted that because I thought, oh, well, you're supposed to meditate like this. I must be doing it wrong. You know how everyone goes through this. And I found my way of connecting. And of course, writing is my jam. And by the way, if y'all haven't read the chapters that David has written in the Wellness Universe books, please, enjoy, because David is an incredible writer that will get you into your feels and the passion of what he's experiencing. So I just had to give you that little plug there for your writing. I'm a fan.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So say a little bit more about this meditation, affirmation, journaling thing. Yeah. I resonate with what you're saying, and I want to hear more.
Well, I sat to meditate. I did a 30-day challenge, and every time I sat, we started with 15 minutes, and then eventually it grew into this place that I think you mentioned. You said you love being there now because it's a more calm, centered, aligned space. So in the beginning, people have so much resistance to sitting and meditating, but once you really get into the groove, you're going to run for it, because it'll be the most peaceful, amazing piece of your day after a while. But we got to train ourselves to get into the practice of it and the habit of it. So 15 minutes, has now turned into about 45. And I realized I was having poems channeling through me when I sat to get still. So rather than just pushing that away and doing that weird thing where I would say, oh, no, you got to sit there for, I just grabbed my journal and allowed myself to move the energy that way. And so I would write the poems or the affirmations or whatever I wanted to. And I gave myself permission to meditate the way that was working for me, which is my writing.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. Meditation, people obviously, the ego mind likes to categorize and put everything in boxes and, fit things into a certain, the square peg in the round hole kind of thing. And yeah, if you listen to your mind about it, you're probably going to be in resistance at first. But if you just allow yourself to find a way to be present in the moment, and that doesn't require sitting down, it doesn't require adopting a particular posture. It just requires allowing your mind to quiet on its own. And I find when I first started doing this, sometimes just walking my dog was one of the best ways that I could, get into that zone, that quiet zone. Now, after a while, I started, I tried sitting down at the beginning like you did, and I didn't like it at all. I could not find a comfortable place. But the more I did these other kinds of meditations, like maybe mopping a floor, I just kind of stay present to the mop and the water and the, whatever is going on, or washing the dishes, or doing yoga, or, you name it. There's all kinds of things you can do and be present. Riding a motorcycle, let's face it, you're riding a motorcycle, you have to have some pretty good focus. So you're staying in the moment when you're doing that. You're probably not thinking about, the stuff that happened last week or last year, or the bills you got to pay tomorrow. Right now, you're focused on driving that vehicle. So you're in the present moment. But what I found now is, after getting past that and now coming back to the sitting meditation, I find that my meditation is much more, it's much deeper and much more, I get closer and closer to this thing that I think people call bliss. I don't really believe I ever had that before, but now I'm starting to get there, and it's just because I persisted,
Yes, persistence, perseverance is actually one of the tenets of Taekwondo. I'm a martial arts gal.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that lifestyle has to do with life, not just a sport, not just the Taekwondo stuff. But you're making me think about that a lot when you talk about meditation and really just lifestyle practices. So best book I ever read on meditation was a book called True Meditation. And he was saying exactly what you said. Any moment of your life is an opportunity to meditate. It's really about being present, feeling the sensations in the moment. And believe me, I'm in my Mustang, and that is a pure, full-on, in the moment moment for me, where I can't do much else but drive. Like, I need to be feeling it. I need to be alert, aware, awake, right? So for anyone watching too, like, what's your thing? Like, what are you so in the moment with? You can't be somewhere else. You need to be in that focused, centered, grounded space so that you are the most alive and responsive there, right? Martial arts is like that. I mean, you better be in the moment or you're going to get kicked in the head, right? So that's a whole nother way to be in the moment with a practice. But driving can be like that for me. And I'm with you too, like walking the dogs, walking in the woods. So meditation can be a lot of things. And it is that, well, probably the fastest way to raise your vibe right now, this moment. Listen to our voices, feel the passion about the topic we're talking about, feel the seat, your butt in the seat, just be here, out of, the thoughts, but into your body, really soaking it up. And you're raising your vibe by that kind of mindfulness.
Yeah. That's great.
We make it sound easy, right? So some days it's not so easy.
This is the thing. Contrary to what your mind might be saying, it actually is easy.
Yeah.
I mean, I can say that now because I got there.
Yeah.
I will admit that when I first tried doing it, like the sitting down way, like you talked about, I could not. I said, no, I'm doing it wrong. I cannot stop these thoughts. They just keep coming, And of course, that is going to happen. No matter what kind of meditation you choose, you'll have thoughts pop into your head. That's okay. Just notice them. You can, if like Laura, if it's something that's really persistent and you need to do something, well, you can write it down and then come back to it later and then just kind of let it go. But for this moment right here, right now, just try and stay present. Okay, I've got some thoughts. That's happening in the present. It's happening now. Cool. Observe them. I like to think that I'm looking up in the sky and I'm seeing all these really cool clouds going by. Each thought is like a cloud. And as soon, after a while, it changes shape and it transforms into a completely different cloud. Thoughts do that. So enjoy them.
I had a meditation teacher give the boats floating down a river scenario. And if you're on the boat, you're stuck in your thought. But why not hop off onto the bank and just watch them go by?
Exactly. I like that. That's really good. If you're on the boat, you're stuck in your thought. That's really good.
So get off the boat, take a little, day trip off onto the bank, and then you can
Right.
watch, and I'll repeat it, with awareness, you get the choice. So you can sit there stuck in your mind, making the feelings mean whatever you want. Or you can stop and take a breath and notice that you're doing that and choose something different, even if it's walking outside and looking at the sunshine for 60 seconds. I mean, honestly, this can be easy.
Yeah, right. And just to piggyback onto what you're saying there, um, I can speak for myself, and I'm sure I can speak for a lot of other people here. When I'm meditating, there are times when a thought is so interesting to me that I start focusing on it, and then I start making up a whole story and a whole drama. And that goes on for a while until it stops. When I suddenly say, "Oh, I just noticed I'm making up a whole theatrical production about this thought. That's not really what I want to be doing right now. Thank you," and let it go, you know? And do not judge yourself, whatever you do, for getting stuck in there, because everybody does it.
Yeah.
Unless you are like a super master or something who's been doing meditation for an entire lifetime, the chances are you're gonna fall into that trap sooner or later. So
And no matter how
enjoy it
long,
when you get there.
yeah, no matter how long you've been practicing, it doesn't matter. I think the question of the masters is that, how quickly can you notice? And
Yeah.
masters notice a lot quicker because they realize that the longer, many seconds as you spend stuck in negativity or low vibe, you're attracting more of that in your life. And so they have woken up to the fact that they don't want to spend hardly any seconds in that vibration. And they've gotten really good at noticing in the moment, seconds, literally, like, "Ooh, look at that. Look what I'm doing. Okay, let's pick something different." Right.
Exactly.
And I love that practice. I do make that a game. I'm going to mention one thing here that I always get. There's always a comment about, well, then you're ignoring your real feelings, or you're bypassing, all the ways that people want to talk about toxic positivity. And for me, with a 30-year background in holistic physical therapy, learning that I had to give myself permission to feel every single feeling first and honor all of them. And then if I was in a practice of really honoring those feelings and doing the work of that, because that's hard work some days, then I got a choice. And it is my choice to turn my face toward the sun at that point. Right. And so I'm not telling you to ignore stuff. I'm telling you to honor it, feel it, and then quickly recognize that you can choose something better, healthier, and more aligned, higher vibe. And why are we even talking about this today, David? It's because high vibe will bring you the life you're dreaming of. That's
right.
why we like this topic so much.
It's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and as you say that, it brings back to mind this concept of the law of attraction. A lot of people talk about this law of attraction. What you focus on is what you attract into your life. Well, there's truth to that, but there's a part of it that isn't very well explained, or at least most people don't get it. It's what you focus on with all of your consciousness, not just the stuff you're aware of. So if you're sitting there in your mind and you're saying, "I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich," but down underneath in your unconscious, you're thinking, money sucks. I'm never going to have money, or I don't deserve to have money, or I'm not smart enough. Or if you're believing that stuff at a core level, that is what you're going to attract into your life, because it's much stronger than the stuff you're trying to cover it with. So, don't let yourself fall into the trap of thinking that all I got to do is think positive. That's not going to work. You have to raise your awareness about the stuff you're thinking of in the unconscious realm, in the subconscious.
You have to be it. You have to live it. You have to be feeling a genuine level of joy, gratitude, and love underneath. And it takes some work to change those old conditioned habitual patterns. You and I both know that work.
Right.
Right. And that is why there are amazing healers and coaches like yourself out there, because we can't see that underneath stuff sometimes. Sometimes we need someone to be the mirror and just, say to us, hey, do you realize you're doing this? Because this could be a really huge opportunity for you to shift some stuff here.
That's right.
Everyone needs that, because we're so in it for sometimes an entire lifetime. We're in that. So what's it going to take to wake up to it? Well, seekers love these topics, and there's a practice here that's some days not so easy, and some days you need help.
That's right. And and having help is not a bad thing.
No.
As a matter of fact, what I'm going to actually ask people to reframe something. Some people think, well, if I ask for help, it means I'm weak, or I'm becoming a burden, or whatever story you're making up about it. But let me ask you this. How do you feel when someone else asks you for some genuine help? I know how I feel when someone asks
you feel
me.
really great. You get high vibe about being able to serve and offer your help to somebody. You're giving a gift when you allow someone to help you.
Exactly.
Yes.
We need to understand that. That doesn't mean that I should be going around, hey, Laura, can you take care of this? Hey, Laura, can you take care of that? Hey, no.
Right.
I'm not trying to create a slave to do all my work for me. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give myself permission to say, I can't seem to get this by myself. As much as I'd like to, I can't get it. So now I can reach out to someone I trust, someone I love, someone I know is going to take my heart lovingly in their hand and support me. And that is the person I will reach out to and say, I'm really struggling with such and such. Maybe you can help me, point me in the direction, show me something I'm not seeing, whatever the question might be. That is called, that's true request for help. And the person you're asking will recognize the authenticity of it and the genuineness of your ask, and will come to you with an open heart. Well, most people will do that.
I agree. I think that takes a warrior to ask for help sometimes. We've been taught not to. You said it. We've been taught it's weak, or we are not successful unless we're doing it all by ourselves. And It is so the opposite, So that genuine ask, I wrote a blog about this. I had a friend who would never let me help her, would never ask. And I finally had to look at her one day and say, you realize this would be a gift to me. Like, you realize that I would feel so good if I could help you with, XYZ. And I just really tried to have her see that. And I think that, I know a lot of people who are just so severely independent that they're not thinking about it in a way that is reciprocal. And it's such a reciprocal energy, those awesome, genuine asks. And yeah, we all need that. There's inner work. You and I both know this. There's inner work to be done. But we also heal in relationship and community. So it is not all inner. It is both. So there's the inner world practice of healing and awareness that we're talking about today, but we also have to remember that the people around us are also vehicles for deeper healing. There was a point in time where I kind of got tired of people saying, well, stop looking outside of yourself. Well, outside of yourself is the inner circle you've built around you of people and potential and opportunity for relationship that can actually open up your entire world to the inner work you need to do. So exactly. It's both, you guys. It's both things, right? So yes, you got me started on that. I don't know how, but you did.
I just gotta, say something, and that'll trigger a thought. I just want to say thank you, Sarah, for that comment. You get pleasure from giving, so allow others the pleasure of giving to you. Well said, and yeah, it's a very, very important thing. I actually am going to write a blog post that says it's better to receive than to give. And I really do believe it is, because receiving means you're giving at the same time that you're receiving, because you're giving the other person the opportunity to give to you. And if someone wants to give you something and you don't want to receive it, you're basically closing down the channels of energy transfer and communication. So yeah, that's not a healthy way to be.
And we all know givers who give with expectation. That's another piece to this little puzzle. Like, you have to detach and give to give. No expectation. Right. It's an energy exchange, right? There's that piece of this too.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I think usually when someone is trying to give you something, you usually know what the energy is coming from.
Yep.
We're pretty smart. We figure this stuff out pretty quick.
Yeah. And with the high vibration subject, when you learn the language of your soul and intuition, and you understand the messages in your body and your mind, but there's a feeling sense for me. You've got a very, very clear cheat sheet to know what that energy is in yourself, from other people, situations, decisions you want to make, right? So raising your vibe and mastering a high vibe life is really about knowing that language so well that you don't have the doubt about it anymore. You trust that the feeling you're having is the answer to, if that's a yes or a no for you. For me, it's in my body, it's in my heart, it's in my gut. And I don't doubt that anymore, so that I can make decisions for myself that are very, very clear. Might piss somebody else off a little bit, but I have to prioritize that to keep myself in the love and joy and gratitude that I want to live in every day. I mean, we all would want that, right? So you have to get good at that language.
Yeah. Well, I just like to reframe the language a little bit. I don't think you can piss off anybody. You simply do what you do, and they will have whatever response or reaction they have. It's up to them to get pissed off or not. We've become such a, what's the word, a feeling sensitive society now, where I have to watch every word I say for fear of possibly hurting your feelings. Well, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to play that game. I'm not going to participate in that ridiculous charade, because I don't have any control over your feelings anyway. Even if it's by some strange imagination, I imagine I do. So all I can really do is just show up as the truly authentic and magnificent being I am. And if you are uncomfortable with that, there's your opportunity to do some work.
That's the mark of a master, David. Understanding what you just said. Because we walk around and we are triggered over here and we're triggered over there. We feel this resistance and we're just spewing our trigger reactions all over everybody. Instead of just pausing and realizing we feel a certain way, that's our stuff.
That's right.
So, oh my goodness, that's been a lifelong practice that I won't say I've mastered it. I'm getting better and better. But if there's something that happened, especially in a relationship, of course, you guys know the hard parts here is when that somebody has said something to you and you feel, and you come at it, right? And you just react and you say that thing, and a couple minutes after you're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that thing. So my practice is slowing the train down and just be like, whoa, why do I feel like that from what they said? It's my stuff. Exactly. Yeah, that's a mark of a master here. This is how you can raise your vibe from a place that's very, very low, because arguments, anger, resentments, that is low vibe.
Right. And you know what? Just because you may be masterful in certain aspects of your life doesn't mean you're going to slip or not. It doesn't mean you're not going to slip into old patterns and make mistakes. And so just to come back to what you said, I know that there are times when, like with my kids particularly, I'll say something or my son will do something. I'll say, God damn it, you make me so mad. Then I stop and I say immediately, as soon as I catch it, I'm sorry. What I really mean to say is what you did triggered something inside me and I'm having a reaction. If I can catch it that fast, then I know I'm doing okay. And
That's
every time it
fantastic.
happens, he says, wow, I appreciate that you said that.
Exactly. That's the beautiful response you'll get when you can be responsible for your own reactions. The
Yep.
person will be like, "Oh, wow, thank you."
Yep.
Yeah. And then it's done. Like there's no lingering chaos from it.
That's right.
Yeah, because
And
you
the beauty
called it
of it
out.
is if you can develop that practice for yourself, and I'm speaking in general here, what happens is you are modeling a different way of being for the other people in your life. Sooner or later, they're going to catch on and realize that is a far better way of communicating than the ways we have been taught.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, 100%. I watched a talk, I think it was a Brene Brown talk, and she was having this argument with her husband, and she taught herself to um, call her own BS out. And the way that she said it to her partner was something like, what I'm making that mean is like what you did, this thing happened. And what I'm making it mean is that you must think I am blah, blah.
Right.
And I was just like, there it is right there. That will just, it'll call out your own stuff and it will de-escalate everything because you're not trying to blame somebody else.
Right. That's great. If you can catch that and say it that way.
Yeah.
Another way that I've used is the story I make up about that.
Yeah.
Or the drama I'm creating in my head. And I had a friend of mine who he used to do this work as well, and he would always say, I'm hallucinating that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I would laugh. I'd say, okay, because that's really what it is.
Yes.
It's a hallucination. You're making it up.
You are making that crap up. And when you can call yourself out, it's a game changer.
That's right. And if you can just own it right from the beginning, if you can have that mindset that every time I have a reaction, I'm going to own it. Every time I have a reaction, I'm going to own it. Not say I'm never going to have a reaction, because God damn it, you're going to have a reaction sooner or later.
Yeah.
Sorry to say. And so just be, gentle with yourself. When I have a reaction, I own it. Simple. And you can even say out loud, oh boy, I'm having a reaction right now.
Yes.
And then the other person who's there with you will say, oh, what's the reaction about? Now they've given you a chance to share from a place of authentic ownership. Yeah, I see I've got this whole story going on. I remember my mom did such and such, and it's reminding me of what you did just now, reminded me of that. You see? And that's mostly what we're triggered by anyway, is stuff that happened when we were 4 years old.
Yeah,
or younger.
Ages ago. And so I think for me, maybe some of you resonate with this, is the stuff that I think I'm right about that will trigger me the worst. Right. And so like there's going to be something, even for someone who's practiced a lifetime in this, where they just think they are right. And so when they're triggered, they can't observe it because they're so right about it. There's not that room. You have to make room to watch yourself. And so I think it's the things we think we're the most right about that catch us up the worst. Even those of us who practice this or try to practice it every day. So it'll happen. It's okay. Be gentle with yourself, and then you have another opportunity to practice, I'm sure, the next hour or the next day. Right.
Well, speaking of being gentle with yourself, I think that's an important thing to remember. We all have ego minds, and we all have this. What comes with the ego mind is self-criticism and we beat ourselves up.
Yeah.
We tend to do that. And we make ourselves wrong about so many things in our life because we're not living up to the expectations of this ego mind that we have created. So when that happens, and I always say when, because if is out of the question. When it happens, try really hard to just pause and say, oh, I see I'm criticizing myself right now, or my ego mind is speaking up. What I like to do, and I don't know if this is a practice of yours, but what I like to do, if I'm aware enough in the moment, I will say, oh, That's an interesting thought that you have. Tell me more. And let the ego mind kind of unwind that whole piece. It might still remain kind of angry for a while, but what happens if you say, tell me more, help me understand where that's coming from? What you're really doing is allowing the ego mind to kind of unwind itself and say, yeah, well, this happened, and blah, I'm really worried about you having this problem. I'm trying to keep you safe. This is what the ego mind's doing. And if you can just allow yourself to stop fighting with it and just listen, what happens is you can actually learn to love your ego mind. And if you love your ego mind, let me tell you, it will start to become an ally and a supportive partner in your journey rather than trying to command your life and run the whole thing into chaos.
Yes, agreed. I write it all out. I add the writing. So if I'm looking at those thoughts, and I also remind myself that every time that I'm in the barrage of thoughts like that are usually old and boring because I've heard it before, I try to just flip that switch a little bit to something that's healthier and better aligned with my big, juicy desires and goals. So these two practices exist at once for me. If I have to get in touch with my juicy desires for my life right now, that way, when the self-sabotaging begins, I have this beautiful energy over here that overpowers and reminds me that I have a practice of not listening so much to that self-sabotaging message, but honoring it like you are talking about, getting to love it. Oh, thank you for that. I got you, right? I hear you. You're not trying to push it away. You can accept it and help it out. And then, one of my books, David, is How to Have Fun with Your Fear. So I like to have a good time and love on those voices and that fear and that doubt and just be like, hey, how can we have a little bit more fun here? Like, I've got this big, juicy goal, this desire, like, I want to make this happen. So that voice, that's wasting my time there. You're wasting my time. Like, what else you got? What else is possible? How can you help me move over here a little bit, right? So I like to have a conversation with it. I like to lighten it up. I like to raise the vibe on that conversation a little. Yeah, just for obvious reasons to raise the vibe.
You hit a very powerful question that I want to draw attention to again. It's beautiful. What else is possible?
Yeah, powerful question.
The moment you ask that question, you are thinking in the positive.
Curiosity.
It really helps to move you out of the reactive energy and into the space of what could be.
It's probably my biggest tip for if you're having a really crap day. If you can just move to a neutral space of asking yourself a bigger question like that, whether or not you have an answer right away, it's still going to shift your vibe higher than it was a minute ago when you were in the crap.
Exactly.
Take a breath, ground yourself. What else is possible here? Okay, maybe I don't know, but asking the universe and yourself that question is shifting the energy right that moment. That is raising your vibe. You can't always jump from the crap to the joy or the crap to the love. You can't always do that. So the breath work that I practice, just that in the moment, deep pelvic bowl breath with a what else is possible here. That's my stepping stone some days. Depends on the day,
Right.
Yeah.
But what else is possible is always a good question to ask. It just invites your spiritual side, your intuition, your imagination to just kind of start speaking up, and your creativity to start opening up opportunities for you. Yeah. Even if you don't have an inner critic that's jumping on you right now, at any moment, you can always ask yourself, what else is possible here?
Well, I love taking things to the next level of this. And the next level of practice for me was just playing with what was possible in terms of moving into love, joy, and gratitude a little faster. I ask myself sometimes on the super crap days, hey, Laura, could you go there right now? Do you think that might be possible? And y'all, I'm talking about some pretty bad days, like some pretty distressing moments with circumstances that were out of my control type of thing, like tough stuff. And I would ask myself, listen, is there anything you can do about it right this second? Is there a call you can make? Is there an action you can take? Is there someone you could talk to? If it was a no, then all right, no action to be taken. So what do you got? Can you move to, you see those, a wrong thumb, you see those beautiful yellow roses behind my shoulder there? Can you just move to something that makes you feel a little softer? Wow, my mom gave me that bouquet of roses. Thank you, Mom. I love roses, right? And that might just be the simple thing. Like there's usually something around you to slide in. But when I got really good at this, I could shut down the nonsense and hop over to deeper love pretty fast. That's pretty cool. And it feels like a small miracle sometimes. Doesn't always happen easily, but I know you get this, David.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a number of people who teach this idea that you can adopt any state you want simply by putting yourself into, like, maybe adopting a physical posture to feel that kind of state. So if you're interested in just feeling powerful, then stand up and adopt a powerful pose, or the Superman pose, or maybe the Kung Fu warrior pose. I don't know, whatever it is, just moving the body into a new position can be enough to shift the mind into a different state. So,
yeah, physical exercise, any amount of movement will shift your energy. Yes.
Yeah. But I'm saying you could even do this if you're driving in your car.
Totally.
You don't have to actually do jumping jacks or something like that. But you can certainly keep one hand on the wheel and just really go punch out and feel that body move or something. Or
turn on the Rocky song. It's all good. We are the champions. Put on something good. Scream, sing to the top of your lungs. Deep breathe in your car. There really are no excuses. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You can pick something. Yeah.
And really, that's what we're trying to do here. We're talking about raising your vibe so that in the long term, you become unstoppable. That the only thing that can stop you is you. That's really where we're trying to get to this place where, okay, right now I'm going to sit and meditate. So I'm not actually being unstoppable when I meditate, but I'm actually choosing to do something to help raise my vibe so that when I get out of the meditation, I become more unstoppable. That's what we're aiming for.
Your awareness makes you unstoppable. It's back to that foundational piece. Yeah, you get the choice. Right. I know you have heard it a lot, and I have as well. People will say, yeah, but what about this scenario? And we could name any scenario right now, the worst possible things you could imagine, and it still is your choice. Because people will say, well, I don't have control. Well, of course you don't have control over these things that happened, or these, but you think you don't have control over the thoughts. And that's where I want people to realize there's a feeling behind the thought. Sometimes you're making the feeling mean other things. David, you expressed that when you said, oh, it goes all over the place if I let it go there. So that's the control we do have in any moment, is our awareness.
Right. And the other thing is about circumstances that I want to say, or maybe external forces that you have to deal with. Right now I'm thinking about my journey to become a fighter pilot, and how I was told before I started out on that journey, how many people were vying for this one cockpit seat, this one pilot seat that I wanted. And I said, in my mind, I just simply said, It doesn't matter to me how many other people want that seat. I am creating the universal space that one of those seats is available for me. And I don't care how I get there. That, sure, there's all kinds of obstacles put up in front of me to kind of weed out the people who aren't serious. That's what the universe does. You know, the universe will tell you, oh, you want to do that? Okay, go ahead. Get started. Let's see how far you go. And if you are the kind of person who, who when the first obstacle comes, you say, well, that's not so bad. You get through it. But the second obstacle, and maybe the third, then your friends start questioning what you're doing and say, what the hell are you doing, man? You're never going to make it. If you give up, then you are proving them right and you're proving yourself wrong. And really, all it is a case of making a choice. As Laura has said many times, no, this is something I'm going to do. And if there's naysayers in your life, maybe it's a good time to find new people to have in your life.
Oh my gosh. So that's a pretty hot topic too. I think for some of you listening, you may even be thinking, wow, but what about the people I hang out with? If, my high vibe practice is constantly sabotaged by this person who's so negative all the time, or this boss or this colleague or this person you got to be with every day, right? Mm-hmm. I wonder, David, what you would say about that. Like, how do you deal when it feels like the other people around you are being the negative ones? I mean, do you just shut down the conversation? You can't always, right?
It's a tough one. My first response is I tell people this is what I'm going to do. And I invite them to come along on the journey with me. If you'd like to come along and support me on the journey, that'd be great. But if you decide that you don't want to do that, that's okay too. But that's what I'm doing. I honor your choice, whatever that choice might be. And if we never see each other again, well, then I'll just have to love you from a distance. That's kind of how I've come to that point now where I'm okay being on my own because I know I'm not really alone.
Yes. And for those who have people that they're, living with, and it's harder too, you're having the conversations. I know that just comes up a lot. The person I live with is kind of negative and feels like they're always dragging me down into this low vibe. I think you're just making me think of one of the other strategies I use, and that is be a very good active listener. You can hold your grounded, centered energy in a positive way while you're being a good active listener, but then you can mirror back what somebody says, because sometimes the people in your life, they don't even know that they're so negative, or that so I always just mirror it back. So are you saying that you think da da da, and I'm just being a mirror? I didn't say my opinion. I'm just mirroring back what they said to me, but I'm kind of holding my own relaxed, grounded presence, right? While that conversation is going, I'm trying not to let myself get pulled into a direction or a trigger or whatever. Like, oh, that's interesting that you think that way. Actually, I'm feeling quite the opposite today. I'm feeling really good about this, and so I'm just giving y'all a scenario. You can just be who you are in the moment with your own positive vibes, and you can mirror the person, and you can allow them to be themselves, and you can be yourself too, right? So sometimes there's that tactic, and we have to practice.
There's I don't know if you've heard of David R. Hawkins. He writes a lot of really good books, or he used to before he died. But one of his most famous was called Power versus Force. And his whole idea has to do with levels of consciousness, which is kind of what we're talking about here. We're talking about raising our level of consciousness up a notch or two.
Yeah.
And what David Hawkins says is that consciousness is kind of on a logarithmic, or if you like, an exponential scale. So if you increase your level of consciousness by one level, you're actually 10 times more powerful than the person who stays behind at the level you were at before. So therefore, it's going to take 10 of those people to drag you down.
I love that.
So just remember that every time you up your vibe, you're moving to a higher level that's going to take way more effort for the rest of them to bring you down.
I have experienced that. I'm happy to hear you say it like the way you're saying it today, because yeah, I have experienced that. I could be I'll vouch for that. They're not going to pull you down as fast or as hard, or if at all, if you pop it up a notch. Yeah, it's great.
And the other thing is, what might be funny, if you just think about it for a moment, the people who want to drag you back down to their level, they're really going to have to work hard at it.
Yeah.
And they're going to expose themselves. They're going to make themselves obvious about their level of energy. And so, as Laura was talking about this, active listening and reflection, you could simply reflect back what you're seeing and hearing and say, so what I'm hearing you say is you're uncomfortable making that move to there, or, however you want to, whatever it is, the truth might be. Yeah. And okay, I understand that it can be scary, and I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Because, Laura, you and I have talked about, we did an episode on having fun with fear. You talked about your book, and we did an episode. I think it was the very first episode you did on this show. And the whole point, fear really is an illusion. It doesn't really exist. It's a trick of the ego mind. And when you think about it, if you really, really think about it, every time you have some kind of a fear, I will guarantee you that it's about 95% to 98% likely that it is a completely fabricated fear. It's not like there's a bus coming down the road about to hit you, or there's a meteor shower coming down, going to crash on you, and you're going to die. That might happen 1% of the time in your entire life, maybe even less than that. I've picked some kind of extreme examples, but when you have real situations that require you to respond to fear, those are very rare, really, in your life, especially in the way we live nowadays. Okay, we don't have tigers chasing after us or stuff. So remember that most of your fears are completely imaginary. As Sarah says, they're false evidence appearing real. That's called a backronym, by the way. Yeah. In case you didn't know, somebody came up with that little term and said, "Oh, this is a great thing to." Anyway, never mind. But that's what I think. And if you can keep that mindset and understand that your fears are almost all imaginary, then you can release them more easily and start moving forward into the higher vibration where you'd really like to be.
Yeah, the dance with fear is the practice of raising your vibe. So I like to talk about purpose-driven fear, because if the fears are coming up aligned with something that you really want to do, one of your desires, one of your goals, and they keep coming up to bug you, it's like, oh, there it is again. That's because this really matters to me, right? And you already talked about the fact that the problem is a lot of the time they do feel like those survival fears, and that has a real feeling in your body.
Oh, yeah.
So discernment is the awareness practice that's going to help you become a master at this. Discerning the feeling and understanding, oh, hey, that's an old reaction. But this little fear here, this is just made up stuff because I'm afraid of taking this risk in my business or whatever it is, Such a great topic. This is part of the mastery of raising that vibe. Yeah.
Well, and I just want to amplify what you said. Just because a fear isn't real doesn't mean that your body doesn't respond in the same way.
Exactly.
So your body may be reacting in a fearful way, like you might feel that clenching, you might feel, yourself closing down, or you might want to run away, or whatever happens in your body. that may show up anyway. But if you can pause just long enough to say to yourself, is this real or is it not? You will quickly come to a realization that most of the time your fear is just an imaginary story in your head. So that's all I want to say about it. Yeah.
If anyone has wanted to step up on a stage with the spotlight on you and the microphone, and I'll go to some poetry open mics now and again, and started to do that a couple of years back. And I would take my little paper up to the stage with that spotlight in my face, and I would read those poems sweating and shaking.
Sure.
And that's a pretty intense, visceral example, that performance anxiety kind of fear of something that's not really real. Like, I'm not going to die standing on the stage. No one's going to, even if they laughed at me, that wouldn't kill me. Like, it's okay. So we're so afraid, but being on that stage and sharing my message was very aligned and purpose driven.
Sure.
So when I started to recognize the shake as that old thing, even though I wanted to do the thing, I was like, okay, I'm going to try it again. I'm going to practice this again. I'm going to step up there again. So the 20th, 30th, 40th time, I could stand there without shaking, and just be like, deliver my message from that bigger place where I knew, so practice, I guess, is my point here too. You have to know the feeling, discern the feeling, practice acting with the feeling, and you get better and better and better and better at it, so that you don't have to feel that terrible visceral thing so much anymore. I still have it a little. I mean, I think if you didn't have it, it would be a problem, Yeah.
When I get up on stage, I always feel the butterflies in my belly.
Yeah.
And I don't think I am visibly shaking, but I am nervous,
Yeah.
And yet there's something about that. It gives me a feeling of aliveness, like, oh yeah, this is cool. Yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable. Take a few deep breaths, get up there, and then just dive in. And before I know it, the butterflies are gone.
Yes.
So yeah, sometimes you just gotta take that first step. Sometimes that's all it is, that first step. And everything else just kind of magically follows, because, people have to remember, and I want all of you watching this right now to remember that you are a magnificent, divine, spiritual being of light and love who happens to be sharing a temporary human experience here on the physical plane, just like the rest of us. And you may not see yourself that way, but I'll tell you, I see you that way. And when you get up on stage, I'm going to be listening to you. It doesn't have to be a big stage. It doesn't have to be a fancy stage. But when you shine, I'm going to watch you and I'm going to look at you. And that's really what all of us want. We want to be seen and we want to be heard.
You get the gold glitter heart for that. Okay. Yes.
Very good.
That's my high vibe prop for the day.
That's great. Thank you. So Laura, I mean, it's been over an hour already. It's just been going like crazy, and I just love this conversation. But I'm going to have to wrap up here. So I just want to ask you, is there anything you'd like to say in closing before I wrap up?
I'll just say that, this practice of shifting your vibration to something a little higher, this could result in everything you ever wanted for your life. I want to remind you how important this practice is, and it is worth the work. So keep it up and get help if you need to take yourself to the next level. And it's just so fun when you're living in that place, that you dreamed of. That could be the result of this practice for all of you. So have fun with it.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your beautiful wisdom. I want to thank everybody here who was on the live stream watching us. Thank you for being here. And those of you who are watching the recording, thank you for being here. And I'd like to remind everyone that the recording of this show and all the other shows that I do on Life Mastery TV can be found at my website at lifemasterytv.com, life-mastery-tv.com. And as we always close these shows out, I just want to remind you of my daily practice of the Life Mastery mantra, something for you to just take home and adopt for your own. It's a simple little meditation that you can use. It goes like this. I gratefully forgive the imperfect being I have been in the past. I gratefully accept the magnificent being I am right now. I gratefully welcome the evolved being I am becoming in each new moment. So until we meet again, please remember to keep raising your vibe and living your life to the maximum, because that's what we're here all about. I'm David McLeod, your life mastery coach, wishing you love, light, and blessings on your continuing journey. Bye-bye.